Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We're on episode 128 back here at the Rail in Fort Worth, Texas. And today I got a good buddy of mine. And I'm actually super excited because I've heard this guy has got a lot of crazy stories about a lot of crazy, especially like this place, actually.
Especially this place. Yeah.
Especially this place. But today we have Hunter Haddad. Am I saying that?
You got it right.
Haddad, yeah. Former Meow Wolf, you have a history with bands too before actually that. But yeah, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's really awesome to be here, you know, especially since like you guys kind of got Bad Lives, like our second show ever.
Weird.
Which is wild because like there was 100 after that, I think. But you know,
y'all did play a lot of shows,
which is kind of nice now to have a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
You know, because now I have like other creative outlets that I'm pursuing, and you know, of course, my day job is pretty taxing, and so I would work weekends, and so I'd get off at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, have to load my shit in the car, and then beat feet to Deep Ellum or wherever in traffic, play a show, and then drive all the way back home afterwards. And I was living in Oklahoma for like the longest time.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll point at that like right away, because yes, the iteration of Bad Lives that was playing live is now like officially like dispersed. Like as far as I can tell, like it's from what I could see is that it was going to continue as like an online kind of project.
So essentially, and like just to like not pull any punches, Jordan and I are still friends, like to this day. And he really like shaped me as a musician. When that ended, it was simply because like the DFW scene wasn't able to kind of support what he wanted to do. He was looking at, and if you know him, you know his setup, you know how much he's invested into this, and it sounds ridiculous, but like it just couldn't support what he was doing, and we were having to like pay to play shows, and he was losing money a lot of the time, and that was a huge bummer because like we loved doing it. And so it was never a lack of like love for each other or like the love of doing it. It was more like logistically, like I'm gonna fucking run this thing into the ground if I don't pull back and start doing stuff a different way. And he's always kind of been the face of everything. He wrote all the music. For those of you who don't know, I didn't write anything. You know, he wrote all the music, and like it was kind of his thing. And he kind of brought me on because he wanted to do the live thing. He had never even played a show when we first started. Like the first show
crazy
ever. Dude, it was wild because I'm like, you were so fucking talented. Like, fuck you, dude. Like, you've never played a show before. Like, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit. Like, these songs are good. But we disbanded simply because, like, I also think that life had changed a little bit for Stormy. You know, she just got married. They have a kid. You know what I mean? And so I think she also kind of wanted to do her own thing in some ways. And then like with me, I have a jewelry business, for those of you who don't know. And like my jewelry business is kind of starting to take off, and it still is. And so it's kind of like, well, there's a lot of different stuff pulling us different directions. It doesn't mean we won't ever come back together, but I do believe that iteration of Bad Lives is probably going to be the best that there ever was, because we just had, like, I could know what Jordan was going to do on stage before he knew what was going on.
Oh, your band chemistry, like between that band, was absolutely like incredible. Like every show, and that's one of the things that you like. I love to see in like bands is like that consistent like energy in every show you put on, no matter what the crowd size. Like everyone always talks about it, but Bad Lives is definitely an example that I was like, everybody in that fucking band like goes at it every time you fucking play.
We just love doing it, and I think that's the thing, is that if you are in a band and you do not like playing music, you do not need to be in a band. Well, like if you,
such a simple concept.
But it's wild, but like, you know, like there's some musicians that I'm not going to say any names that we've played shows with. And the whole time, I'm like, fuck, dude, we got to play a show. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, are you Then they're like, oh, God, it's just like, if there's not 200 people here, it's not worth it. And like, whether Bad Lives played to one person or 300, we put on the same show. There were times we played to an empty room and still put on the same show just for the bartenders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all about the love for what you do. If you don't love music and you don't love the grind and you don't love the hustle, don't play music.
Yeah. And I mean, the consistency was crazy in energy, especially because like I definitely am one of those wholeheartedly that the Bad Lives like live experience was definitely underrated and should have been recognized a lot more. Like, and it sucks that that's the sentiment, because I'm like, it should be like, oh, like every time, because initially when we first booked you guys for a show, like DJ is the one that like I guess received like I don't actually remember who reached out to who. It was,
I think he reached out to us after I sent, because he posted a status. He was like, new DFW bands, like drop your music here. And we had just filmed the music video for Valentine, which there's a really hilarious story behind that music video we'll talk about later. But I was like, hey, you should check out our band. And then like he reached out to me and was asking me questions that I didn't know the answer to. And so I had to like defer to Jordan.
Like, hold on.
And I was like, wait. I'm just the bass player. Hold on. Like, you know, and so after that,
because when I received those, because I mean, he sends everything to us, and he's like, oh, like check out these guys. What do you think? And I literally was like, there's no fucking way that I haven't heard of these guys before. Like, there's no way, like them being this good, because I saw that video, and I think the video for
Talk Too
Loud, yeah, it was out. So both of those were like out, and I'm just like, these are fucking excellent songs. Like the videos look fucking cool as fuck. And I was like, how the fuck have I not? And then like Talk Too Loud is one of those that's like just super catchy. I'm like, this is, I should have heard this like by now. Like, why haven't I? And it was nuts that the show you played for NoiseROT was going to be the second show.
The second show ever.
And that, again, like I was just like, this makes no fucking sense to me at all. Which is crazy. But so it really didn't come to like a sudden, and it was, do you feel like it was kind of gradually?
I feel like it was really sudden for me, simply because like I am not very socially aware of a lot of shit, right? You know, my tizzy kind of fucking Jordan and I are on opposite spectrums. He got the tism that made him really good at stuff, and I got the kind that just makes me awkward at parties. You know what I mean? So like you know, it was kind of like a weird balance, and I like got diagnosed at like 26 in Oklahoma over a telemed thing. It's like, wow, dude, really? Like fucking like right in the middle of COVID, and
you got it.
Yeah, it was like, oh, cool, check that fucking box off. You know what I mean? But so I really didn't see, and I feel like Jordan like didn't want this to end my love of music, because I'd come off of another band called American Candy, where like I love Tanner. And Tanner, if you're watching this, I'm sorry I have to tell this story, but I'm going to. But Tanner Stevens and I have been friends for fucking 15 years, maybe longer than that. I was friends with his brother originally. So we started American Candy with me, him, Dalton Ward, and this kid named James. And like, no matter what we did, there was some sort of fuckery or some sort of goblins in the machine that just stopped that from ever really even getting to a show. And so like we had all this great material, we released music, and then it just gone. Like, and it ended up being a hellacious blowout fight in between me and Tanner. And there was one point where like I literally like took my bass outside and was looking at the fire pit and was like, I'm about to fucking torch this motherfucker. I'm done. I've been doing this for 10 fucking years. No traction. I'm over it. I'm done doing it. 2 days later, I hit up Jordan, which if you guys have seen the other podcast, you know how that story went. Yeah. He ignores me like a fuck. And then finally he responds to me, and then Bad Lives takes off. And so I really think that Jordan didn't want this to be the nail in the coffin for me. And so I think to some extent he kind of insulated me, but he would drop hints, you know, over time. He'd be like, you know, TikTok's really gaining traction, and I'm so fucking proud of him. Like, let me get this out of the way immediately. There are no hard feelings about it. I'm so fucking proud of Jordan. Jordan is the hardest working person I've ever met in my entire life. Dude writes a song like every 2 days, and I know because I get him in my text messages, and he's like, "Bro, listen to this," you know, and none of them are bad. Like, it's fucking. So I think he kind of tried to insulate me from that a little bit, and then when the time actually came, I felt really blindsided, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. But that's not his fault, you know, and like, of course, your knee-jerk reaction, you know, you put 3 years into something, and then all of a sudden the main dude behind it's like, hey, man, like, we can't really do this the way that we've been doing it anymore. Yeah. And of course, you go through the stages of grief. So you try to bargain. You're like, well, what if we did it this? And he was just like, hey, like, that's kind of it for now, man.
Already mind made up kind of thing.
Yeah, and he was like, don't be upset that it's over. Be glad that it happened. And it took me a long time to get to that point, you know. which I'm there now. And of course, we've remained friends. And I think that should tell y'all everything that you need to know. You know, there's no animosity there. But like at the end of it, when it happened, I was caught off guard. But now I feel like the writing was on the wall for a really long time. I just didn't want to believe it. Yeah. Which that's not his fault. That has everything to do with me trying to bargain with the devil, so to speak, to make it, you know, continue to go. And I think that we're seeing that with a lot of bands, bro. Like there's a lot of bands in the scene that like I haven't seen play live shows for a very long time. And I'm like, are these bands okay? Like
there's so many things that go into it. When I was playing in a band back in the day, there was a time where our band was the one that kept persevering, and then I would see all my friends' bands like, I think their band is better than mine, and then like a few months later, like they were breaking up, and I'm like, this fucking sucks. I was like, you know, but it all just things just happen in a sort of like, I mean, depending on like where the band is, everybody, because in a band you have so many people like to have to worry about like what their situations are like, you know, outside situations of in a band, like reception with the band. You mean like. Because again, Bad Lives was working their fucking ass off. Oh yeah, dude. Playing a shit ton of shows in different markets, like around. Like you did a few runs or a couple?
We did two. We did 2 runs, and then we always tried to like go to Austin as much as possible. Which I have a really funny story about Mohawk that we'll get to when we talk about shows. But you know, I mean, it was a great way to get our feet wet, and I think that 10 years from now, Jordan. I think Bad Lives probably won't be a thing anymore. I think Jordan will still be a thing, though. You catch what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I think he's going to be writing for people that are way, like, bigger. And I think that he's probably just going to keep Bad Lives as his little cute pet project. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But, yeah. So that's a wild ride in Bad Lives. And, like I said, you... came from Oklahoma in that Facebook group or something. That's crazy. I think that how that came together. But yeah, it was as far as like someone who like saw it from the outside, like it was a great ride. You know what I mean? Like seeing the creative drive, seeing like everything that come out of it. Performances, like I said, I always like saw a great like fun time, which is what I'm attracted more when I see bands live. Is like, are those guys having fun? Yeah. Like, do they like each other? Like if that vibe comes off immediately, I'm like, I'm having a great time. I don't care what I'm listening to, but of course. Yeah, Bad Lives is definitely good. But yeah, I guess from that you said you have a jewelry business.
Yeah, so I started making. So one of my friends, Adam, he had this thing called the Sleep of Reason 88, and what he was making these jewelry pieces that were for like counter abduction agents and things like that, and essentially. It was a La Santa Muerte like base fronted business. And so one day he just fucking disappeared. Literally fell off the face of the earth. And when he did, there was a giant void. And of course, I'm this dude's like, he was going to be my best man at my wedding. And then he didn't show up. Like he legitimately fell off the face of the planet. And so when that happened, I was getting messages. He owed people like 10 grand worth of jewelry. Oh my God. Like, if not more. And he had just fucking gone. Dude, nobody knows. And still to this day, I have no clue if this dude's dead. I have no clue if he's just like kicking it in Cabo somewhere, you know, drinking margaritas and, you know, playing with people's money, I guess. But so I stepped in to kind of fill that void, and almost immediately I started getting messages. And one of them that really stuck out to me was Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. He reached out to me and he was like, hey man, I tried to order from one of your old buddies and I haven't been able to get it. And I was like, well, first of all, I fucking love Lamb of God. Yeah. So your money is no good here. Whatever you want, I'll make it for you. And he's such a cool dude. He flew down for a show, right? And then took my wife and I out to dinner. And then tried to pay me for the jewelry pieces. Yeah. And I'm like, no, like take the. And so essentially what I make now is it's more of a tool. It's disguised as jewelry, but I use Technora Kevlar blend cord that we, you know, have proprietarily made for us, pendants from Mexico that are pre-blessed before they come in. And then handmade Japanese glass beads that I sourced from a dude that's been doing it for 200 years. His whole family line has been doing it since then. And all that dude asked from me is to send him a carton of cigarettes. like Marlboro Reds. Yeah.
What?
That's all that guy wants is a carton of cigarettes. And so, you know, we basically, the way that I try to do things, this isn't like your grandma's pony beads, right?
Uh-huh.
Like this cordage can hold 5,000 plus pounds on it. Like I'm a big dude. For those of you who don't know, I'm large. I weigh about 300 pounds. I've hung my whole body and swung off of one on Instagram Live to kind of show people what it was about. But after that, it's kind of taken off. So now there's probably about 500 of them out there. Most of them are to, you know, counter abduction agents, FBI guys, CIA, like all sorts of covert op people. And that wasn't the intention.
Yeah.
It just kind of happened that way. And, you know, there's several musicians who've asked not to be named, but Randy being one of them that have kind of adopted, you know, La Santa Muerte. And I think it's crazy because Fort Worth specifically has a botanica for Santa Muerte. And like I came from Honduras on like mission trips and stuff, and I would see them venerate her there. And so that's kind of where the love affair started with this. And then met Adam, and Adam, you know, obviously fell off the face of the planet. And when he did, I actually went through and fulfilled all of his orders that he had walked out on.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so everybody got their pieces that they ordered. I was like, I don't have 10 grand to give you guys, but I know how to make these, and I will make you your pieces that you were owed. And so for the first 6 months, I lost a fuckload of money on that.
Yeah.
But I was able to clear my friend's name, which was really important to me because he was a good man, even if he potentially made bad decisions. And like when you're in like the security world, you meet a lot of people like that that are good dudes that make bad choices. And, and so like sometimes that makes for a hell of a story, and other times it makes for a terrible story with a bad ending. And you think about those people from time to time, and you know, I firmly believe that when you love somebody, when they leave, they take a piece of your soul with them, and vice versa, you know? And so I definitely miss my friend, but that's where that jewelry business came from.
Wow. That's, first of all, I didn't know like all that, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, you're a really good friend. Like,
well, I mean, I try.
That's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, like having that, you know, relationship with him, and then him going off, and you're like, I'm gonna continue like upholding like the type of person he was to me, and make sure like everybody it stays that way, you know, for the majority of other people on the outside. Wow, man, that's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
So explain to me what. So these, you were explaining a little bit about like the material and stuff like that. But what is it for?
So essentially, the idea is that a lot. If security guards are really good, when you go to a lot of places, they're looking for knives, they're looking for guns, they're not looking at your jewelry, right? And so the idea behind this is with that material, not only is it super strong, but also it can be used as a saw to cut out of restraints. So like say that you're a good guy and you're playing bad guy and you get caught and somebody puts you in some of those nice little zip tie cuffs. Well, the idea behind it is that you could break it off your neck with the magnets that are attached, run it down your shoulder, and then cut yourself free from those restraints. But then also, if you have to use it to choke a motherfucker, you see what I'm saying? A knife's not gonna cut through it. You know, and then not only that, if you need cordage, like if you're in a survival situation, there's a guy that ordered from me. He's like a big game hunter in Africa and does like guide tours. And unfortunately, he had some issues where he had to break one of his apart and use it to hold his shelter together. And so like multiple uses. The only thing about them though is the amount of people, like I don't openly say like, hey, this is a garrote. Like this is what this is for, because like of course there's some legal gray area there, but the amount of people that are like, you can choke a motherfucker with this, right? It's like, dude,
it's like technically there's a lot of stuff.
It's like there's a lot of stuff that you can do, okay? But like, yes, if you must know, that's one of those things. And so like, not only that, a lot of the like I have a giant La Santa Muerte altar at my house. It freaks out the maintenance guys when they come in. It's the best thing ever. And so, you know, a lot of those people also are practitioners with La Santa Muerte. And I'm a white guy, which is really funny. But, you know, I got a lot of my stuff from the Honduran people there. And so it's also a way for people that venerate her and want to have a relationship with her. It's a way for them to have a physical rosary, which otherwise would be impossible for them to obtain in the States. So it's kind of a lot of things. It's like a religious piece. It's a weapon. It's a tool. I use mine personally. I'm not wearing one today because I had to repair mine. I use mine personally for when I drop shit into my engine bay, like, you know, little metal sockets or whatever. It's got magnets on the back, so I take it off for people's keys, you know, all sorts of stuff, man. Like anything you can grab with a magnet, it'll pick it up. It'll pick up a loaded pistol off that magnet.
Oh, because damn, this strong ass magnet and the strong.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
So
it's literally something I would never have thought of. But like I said, you're talking about these people in the industries that you're talking about. Like, of course, like I'm not in like those situations, or I don't like those don't come to mind. But those people like have seen like that shit or experienced it and be like, yeah, like I see the value in this. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's wild as fuck.
It's one of those things that like. Working in security, like you have 3 types of people that work security work. You've got your Paul Blart, who's the dude on the Segway. He doesn't give a fuck about anything. He's literally there to scan a QR code and like leave.
Yeah.
Then you have people that take it far too seriously. These dudes that look like cops, you know, they've got their hands in their little vests or whatever. They've got a body cam and all that shit. And then the third type of dude you have is somebody that's actually done the work for long enough to realize like what's a danger and what's not. We call it living in the gray. And so you can't be on alert all the time. But you also can't be too relaxed, because when you are too relaxed, that leaves holes for things to happen, right? And so half the bad shit that's ever happened to me as a guard has been because I just happened to be fucking off and not paying attention, and then something terrible has happened. Sorry, my nose itches. Jesus.
No, you're okay.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of like some of those times, you did do security here where we're at right now, which is wild. You know what I mean? First of all, I keep like, I mean, it's only the 4th episode here, but I'm just excited to be part of this place. Obviously, like I've been playing shows and coming here for like a long time, but like this is cool to have like something here. But yeah, you have like a lot of firsthand experience with being here, and yeah, I've heard a lot of wild shit happen here, but not. This will be cool to hear directly from someone like involved in some shit sometimes.
So one of the ones I'll start off with was the 3-Headed Monster tour. It's Violent J and then like 2 other Insane Clown Posse adjacent bands. I'm sorry, Juggalos, don't murder me. I don't know who they were. They get here and they pull up in this giant tour bus. And I'm like, it's probably like an hour before doors. I'm like, oh, you know, it's probably going to be a smaller show or whatever. Wrong. Like 30 minutes after this fucking tour bus rolls up, dude, there's like 300, 400, 500 people wrapped around the building.
Holy shit.
Outside, like waiting to come in. And I think there was like 2 guards that night. And I can't remember who the other guard was. I think it was my boy Brandon. But, you know, I'm like looking at the amount of fucking people that are out there, and I'm looking at us and I'm like, there's not enough of us. Like that's the first fucking thing that comes to mind. And so like the show goes pretty well. You know what I mean? Nobody gets hurt or anything, but obviously there's like people lighting up joints in the middle of the thing, and I have to come up and be like, dude, we don't give a fuck about that, but take it outside. Like don't smoke in the fucking building. Like don't be weird. You know, and so everybody's outside, and about 20 minutes in to like the first act, I go outside and there's this homeless lady sitting out there, and she's got like a rubber hose tied off on her arm, and I'm like, oh fuck.
No.
And so she just immediately starts getting naked and screaming like Donnie from the Wild Thornberries. And I'm sitting out here looking at her like, oh fuck, this is about to be bad. And of course all the, you know, the juggalos, show me your butthole, like you know, screaming and shit. And so like I go over to try and talk to her and keep her off our end of the property. And she legitimately like starts calling me the devil, starts freaking out, and then she runs and jumps over the fence by the liquor store over here and just disappears. But I mean, like, I'm talking about like this must be that crackhead strength that everybody talks about. 'Cause she takes like 3 steps, like boop, 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 and she's over that fucking fence, dude. And I'm a heavier guy. I'm like, I'm not chasing you. Fuck that.
Like you're off. That's what.
And so I'm like, all right, cool, that's done with. But then they get up on stage. And this is at the time where Terry and Tony Mooney own this place. So this is not Pallone. But we tried to cover the speakers because they do the Fago thing.
Yeah.
Right? The Fago missiles. These motherfuckers halfway through the set rip off the fucking covers and start dumping Faygo into the speakers and shit, bro. And so
fuck?
we're like, what the fuck, dude? So Ethan's pissed. Like, everybody's freaking out. Like, I think third string was running it too.
Yeah.
And like third string is like, yo, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, stop. And so like at this point we're wondering if we should stop the show, you know, but Ethan's like, fuck it, we'll just bill them afterwards, let them play.
Yeah.
So then they play, they do their thing, they get off stage. Well, they had agreed to a merch cut with third string. And trust me when I say that they made enough money to have a merch cut.
Yeah.
Okay, like let me put it that way. And the dude wasn't trying to pay for the merch cut. And so Ethan's like, go lock the doors. And so I go over here and lock this door and lock that door and lock the back door. And it's their TM. He's a little guy.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know Ethan Massey, he's another large man, also beard, wonderful mane of hair, you know, and he's like, yeah, we're going to get this merch cut for Maddie because it's Maddie Griffin.
Yeah.
You know, big sour shout out to you. I love you, dude. And she's just like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, so you're going to pay this merch cut, right? And at this point, he's kind of sizing both of us up and he's like, yeah, we'll pay. And we're like, cool, so you shouldn't have a problem pulling out the checkbook right now and doing that, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of sees the writing on the wall and is like, oh shit, I'm gonna do this. And so he like Venmos her, signs a check or whatever, and then leaves. Well, we're all hanging out over here drinking. And earlier in the night, there was this chick with dreadlocks that came in, got really drunk, had to leave. And we're like, okay, cool, whatever. She knew her limits. She left. All of a sudden, we hear bang, 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 bang outside on the trailer because they're still here. They're going to sleep for a little bit before they get on the road. I'm like, what the fuck? So I go out there to check, and it's this same dreadlock lady, Violent J, let me lick your butthole. And I'm like, what is it with these juggalos and buttholes, dude? What the fuck? And so like, I'm like, I don't get what the butt stuff is all about, but fine, whatever. And so I'm like, ma'am, you need to leave. And she's, fuck you. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever. Then she like throws a beer bottle at me.
Oh, fuck that.
And I'm like, all right, you need to get the fuck off the property because if not, we're about to have a serious problem. And Ethan hears the commotion, comes out and is like, what's going on? And she's like, fuck you, you big bitch. And then pulls like a liquor bottle out of her inventory from somewhere. and like straight up, you know, I didn't hear so maybe not the butthole, but you know, so she fucking throws this thing at him. He's like, fuck you, the cops are on the way. And so she's like, I'm not in your fucking parking lot, standing across the street screaming at us. And Violent J and like the other three dudes, they think this is the funniest shit that's ever happened. So they're standing outside laughing at this lady while she's fucking like flipping out, dude, like having an episode. So the cops show up and they're like, okay, what happened? I was like, she threw a bottle at us. She threw another bottle at us. She's fucking twacked out. She's trying to drive her car. She should not drive. And like, shout out to Fort Worth PD because this is like the coolest thing ever. They're like, all right, we're just gonna throw her in the back of her car, get her a hotel room, and then let her come back tomorrow.
Damn,
and so like they get her in there, and on the way out, she's like flipping us off and shit. And we're like, dude, like we just helped you. Like you tried to. And then another one that was really interesting was I was here it was a System of a Down cover band, and people started stage diving for a cover band. And I'm like, that's kind of wild, you know, but there's a lot of equipment on stage, like thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And these people are like stomping all over it and shit. And the band is getting nervous.
Yeah.
And so I go to push this guy off the stage, like, because he's not listening to me. And he gives me the double middle fingers. I'm like, all right, whatever, bro. Like, I get it. You're hard. So then we get back behind here and he was like, fuck you, bro. And he swings on me. Like randomly, I'm like, whoa, hold on. And so as I push him out here, Tony Mooney is in this corner to our left. And Tony sees what's going on and gives me the thumbs up. And I'm like, oh shit, all right, fuck yeah, dude. So he swings on me again and I just kind of pick him up and, you know, drop him on the ground. Well, his fucking girlfriend comes from around the corner screaming and yelling, you motherfucker. And I picked this dude up because like I threw him on the ground, but I didn't like, you know, try to hurt him or anything. So I pick him up, I shove him out the door. Well, he fucking comes back and bangs on the door and he's like, I want to fucking fight again, blah, 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 blah.
I want to fight again.
And I'm like, bro, what? Like, I threw you on the ground. It's like a toddler coming up to an older kid. You know what I mean? Just, you know, hey, what the fuck? Fuck you. And so he finally leaves. And that was a wild one. I also got hit by a granny. I got punched in the face by like a 70-year-old woman. What? This is a great story too. All right. Yeah, there's lots of them, bro. All right. So this one was like some TikTok dude. I think it was like, oh my God, some TikTok rapper, like Swaco adjacent type shit. Like he was good, but I just don't remember the dude's name. And these old ladies are there for some reason. I have no clue why these old women are there. I think they were there with some like younger girls that they were supposed to be watching, but they hit the bar really early in the night. And I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. Well, after this dude gets off stage and he's the headliner, he comes up to have a drink and she's like, I bet you got a good pair of balls on you, and just grabs his junk. Like what? Like right in front of God and everybody, dude. I'm like, holy shit! Like Granny's got some fucking riz. Like, hold up. So I don't think that's real. So I like
harassment.
Oh yeah, harassment. Yeah, there you go. I'm like sexual harassment. And so like we push her out. You know, and she's freaking out, and she's like, what? He shouldn't dress like, and I was like, whoa, no, you gotta leave. Like you can't start talking like that, lady. Like,
he shouldn't dress like this.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, you should not talk like that. You were like a 70-year-old woman. First of all, your boobies get stuck in your armpits while you're talking to me. Like, you need to chill. Oh, no. You know what I mean? So like, I start to push her outside, you know, kind of lightly, like, come on, ma'am, you need to leave or whatever. And she's walking away, and she goes, you know what? And turns and fucking boom, and she hits me in the face. I just start laughing because I'm like, did I just get punched by an old lady? What the fuck?
It's more just baffling.
Yeah, it was like, it's one of those things where like, you know when you're in a video game and you go into a high level area and then like you hit a boss and you don't do any damage to it, and you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
It was like one of those moments, you know, where she realizes that I'm laughing and she's like, whatever, bitch. And then she turns around and trips and face plants.
Oh,
and so now, like,
instant karma.
There's this old lady laying on the ground, and I'm like, fuck, dude, like, I gotta help her.
Yeah.
So I help her up, and she's like, you're still a bitch, though. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I just helped you get up. I'm like, fuck you.
You're still a bitch,
You're still a bitch, though.
All right, man, stick it to
and
your
so
guns.
I fucking put her in her car. She tries to drive, and as she pulls out, she goes towards Quick Trip. I'm on the phone with the police, because don't ever drink and drive.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing, and people die when you do that. And so she hit the light pole at the Quick Trip over here.
Oh, shit.
And like, I followed her in my car over there because the show had ended by this point. And I pull up there to go get my little sandwich, my little Red Bull, because at this point, I'm still driving back to Oklahoma.
Oh, fuck.
Every night. And so I like stop, I get my little sandwich or whatever. I look over, and she's in cuffs. Like sat on the curb, and she was like, you're still a fucking bitch. I'm like, lady, let it go. Holy fuck, dude. Let it go. And,
oh, God.
And so that was another funny one. This is a more recent one. We had the Welcome Back show at the Rail. Went amazing. A speaker did catch fire. That was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And so we're in the middle of the set, and all of a sudden Carlos, he was standing by one of the subwoofers over there, and like, it's loud if you're in this venue. It's got a great sound system. It's fucking loud. And so he's pointing like this, like very urgently pointing, and I'm kind of like, what? And so I look at him, and he goes, and so I run over there, and as soon as I run over there, woof, this fucking subwoofer just starts shooting flames out of it.
Oh, shit.
And so Polo, our sound guy, was over here in the sound booth. I'm like, fire, cut it, fire. And so he fucking cuts the music. Everybody's freaked out at this point.
Yeah.
Carlos jumps over this bar like fucking Superman, grabs the fucking fire extinguisher. Zaylin comes running from upstairs with another fire. I don't know where all these fire extinguishers came from, by the way. It's like people, again, pulling them out of their inventory and shit. And so they both run over there and and then we get it out. Well, as we're getting it out, people are like trying to come outside and fucking like take pictures of the blown up subwoofer and shit. And Polone's like, get everybody back inside. Don't let anybody call the cops. We don't have our TABC yet. And so like, he's like, we don't want the cops here. It'll look bad on us. We're trying to get our TABC. And we're BYOB at this point. And so, dude, that was like one of the wildest things, because you can break up a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can cut somebody off. You can put somebody in an Uber. That's a fucking fire.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
it's hard to fight those.
Yeah, you can't like, it's almost like there's a whole job for it. But you know, you can't reason with fire. Fire doesn't give a fuck about you. It's just gonna do what fire does.
Yeah.
And so we get it outside, and this motherfucker's still smoking. This subwoofer was smoked, dude. Like, I mean, the neodymium magnet on the element, fucking toast. Fucking toast, bro. And so we leave it out there for the rest of the night. We bring it back in. Polone replaces the speaker in it. And about a month or two goes by.
Oh, no.
Josie Scott shows up. And the first thing, Polo is working the sound again. First thing, Polo is like, I swear to God, there better not be a fucking fire. I'm like, God damn it, Polo, you just jinxed us.
Just jinxed it.
Again,
maybe it's you, bro.
Yeah, maybe it's you, bro. And so then I'm standing over here again, minding my own fucking business. And all of a sudden, I see people start to like back away from that same subwoofer. I'm like, oh no. So I get over there, I flip the curtain up. As soon as I flip the curtain up, woof, fire. And of course, Josie Scott is like, oh shit. You know, which never helps, by the way. Because
everyone's just fucking panicking.
Yeah, because it's like, bro, we've done this before. All right, we know the drill.
It's just funny. It's like, no, we've had fires before.
No. We know the drill now, you know? And so we fucking pull the plug on it. And as soon as we pull the plug, fucking fire goes out. And so me and Ethan and one other dude pick up the speaker, take it outside. Same shit. Apparently now we have a new one. I haven't worked here in a hot minute.
Yeah.
But apparently we have a new one now, which is pretty neat.
I feel like that'd be a smart move.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, fool me once, shame on you. Catch on fire twice, get the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like that's it. And so that was pretty crazy. Also TCU nights, bro.
TCU kids are crazy.
Dude,
what I hear.
I love me some Horned Frogs. Your fraternities are awful. Like I have, you want to see like the degradation of man happen in real time.
Oh my
Go
God.
to one of these TCU frat parties. So they show up here, and at the time, again, this is under Tony Mooney's ownership, which I've worked for every owner of the Rail Club now. I can say that. That's pretty neat.
Wow.
But this bathroom at the time was not set up the way it needed to be. So there's like one shitter in there that works, right?
Yeah.
And so at one point in the night, I open up the door. And dude, there is piss this thick, like on the floor, like sloshing around. Like you could almost start singing fucking sea shanties on this shit, bro. and like, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? The drain's clogged with like paper towels. And then like the chicks were worse than the dudes. They were like waffle stomping turds into the drains and shit.
What the
back over
shit?
here. Dude, it was terrible. I God bless his soul, but I made James from Dispositions. I made him clean that bathroom. And I did this one. I was like, I can deal with the piss.
Y'all did even.
I'm like, I can deal with the piss, bro. You got to deal with the dookie. That's not on me. I'm not a dookie guy, but I'm trying to figure out where are all these dudes pissing from? Because they're not all like, I walk in there, nobody's got their dick out just like pissing on the floor or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I turn the corner because there's like a hard 90 degree, and literally this dude is pissing in the fucking corner, and I'm like, bro, you got to get out. So I kick him out. Well, then I come back in. There's a dude standing by the bar over here, by the bar trash can, pissing in the bar trash can. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? Physical violence is going to do nothing about this.
Yeah.
But you know what will? Public humiliation. So I literally go over to the sound guy. I walk this dude over there. I'm like, this dude likes to piss in trash cans. And so like, we publicly shame this dude. We kick him out, and his frat buddies come up to me, and they're like, "What did he do?" And I'm like, "Bro, he was over here pissing in the trash can." They're like, "Oh, that's rad." I'm like, "No, don't encourage." It's like
the public
motherfucker,
humiliation. You probably gave him praise.
Exactly,
like,
dude. Maybe that's his kink or whatever. But you know, like, and then somehow, like 20 minutes go by, and I look, and the motherfucker's back in here.
Oh,
and I'm like, dude, you gotta go. So we kick him out again. He finally gets to the point. He goes home. Hopefully he slept off his massive hangover that he was gonna have. But like, that's just some of the shit. Also, the rail is haunted. I don't know if any. Yeah. I don't know if any of you
strippers?
guys. This is like, no, not strippers. I'm pretty sure it was Stasia, Mike Stasia.
Oh.
But one night, Ethan and I had closed up the building completely after a show. And it's like pin drop quiet in here. And Ethan and I kind of had this tradition where we would sit at the bar and we would have a Crown and Coke together or a Black Tooth. You know what I mean? And so we're sipping our little drink, and, you know, I'm getting ready to drive back to Oklahoma that night again. And we hear the green room door open. Keep in mind, we've cleared the building twice at this point. And I go, that's weird. I'm going to go check that out. And he was like, yeah, that knob was closed. So like somebody's definitely up there. So I go up there, hello, security. Hey, if you're still here, if you're just drunk or whatever and passed out, it's cool. We'll get you a ride home. Like, come out. And I turn this corner, and back in this green room area here, it's a blind corner with a dead end. There's only one door in or out. And around the corner is long hair with hands peeking like this. And it pulls back. And I like, what the fuck? You know what I'm white. I'm not investigate the noise white. No, I turned around and ran back down these motherfucking stairs. And I'm like, Ethan, dude, like somebody's up there. And he's like, no, there's nobody up there. I was like, I swear to God, I saw somebody with long black hair, painted nails, looking around the corner. He goes, what was the description again? I was like, yeah, like thin pencil beard. You know, he goes, hold on a minute. So he goes out to his car and gets his firearm. And he's like, we're going to clear it. You know, we go upstairs. Hello, anybody here? Open the door. Nothing. Straight up nothing.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that happens, all of a sudden we hear like across the wall, like somebody's moving. And Ethan's like, we're getting the fuck out of here, dude. So we like closed everything down. We went to home plate afterwards. But that night I legit saw something that was not there when we went to check. And unless they jumped out the second story fucking window and broke their legs on that ramp down there, they didn't go anywhere. So,
fuck hell, no.
That's one of those. I actually got goosebumps talking.
I like that. I'm not investigate the noise.
I'm white. I'm not investigate the noise white. Okay, I've seen what happens in Five Nights at Freddy's and all that shit, bro. Security guards, they die first in movies. I'm not that guy. I'm out.
It's like, it's all right.
I'm out.
I don't need to know.
and like, you know, what's really funny is as I've worked security, I've also kind of been the security guy for Bad Lives as well. And so like, whenever we would go places, I would sort of stand around the gear and stuff like that. And there are some shows that Jordan has addressed previously, but I'm going to give you guys the other side of this because a lot of the times I was there first. So there was this show. I'm not going to say which company booked us because they're good people and I feel really bad that we left. But this company that books indie bands in DFW gets us this show at this place called Motherlands with Levi the Poet. We pull up to it, it's in Plano. And I'm like, oh, it's a new venue. You know, we pull up and it's a house venue. Some of the best shows I've ever played have been house shows. So I'm like, oh, cool, this will be all. This is a mushroom trip house. So when we arrive, I
didn't even know those were a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either. But there's like wrapping paper on the walls and shit. But we open up the door and I look down and there's whippets. Like hundreds of whippet containers, like on the ground, like nitrous containers, literally next to my door. And I look at my wife, I'm like, we're probably not playing this show tonight. And she was like, what? What do you mean? You just got here. I'm like, bad vibe. So we go in there and we're like, okay, where's the PA? They have a fucking karaoke machine with one power cord.
What the fuck?
And I'm like, where's the front of the house? And he's like, yeah, man, this is the front of the house. And I'm like, what? No. All right, bet. Cool. So I text Jordan. I'm like, bro, we're not playing this show.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you right now. And Jordan's like, oh, you're just being, you know, a little worrywart, little bothersome. Like, it's fine. He gets there. He's like, all right, yeah, no, we're not playing this show.
The way Jordan is about his stuff and being set up, like, you're not playing that.
No, and so, like, I've never seen Jordan mad, but, like, 2 times. Homeboy was as red as a Solo cup trying to plug this in, and there's some rapper there that is like co-hosting or whatever, and they're just like, yeah, we got Bad Light. He's like, no, you don't even have front of house speakers, bro. We're trying to figure out how we're gonna run a front of house out of our rack.
Yeah,
like, no, stop. And they're just like, yeah, woo, like, you know, like doing their thing. And Jordan is like, Hunter, get this person to shut the fuck up right now, because I cannot focus. And if I cannot focus, I'm going to scream. He's like, I need to get out of here. And I was like, all right, we're done. So we start packing our shit up, and the booking company comes up and like, hey, what's going on? We're like, you don't have a front of house. You don't have power cables. You don't have power running anywhere. You don't have a PA system. You have one speaker. Like, we sent you guys our run of show. Like, you're not prepared for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Straight up. And then they had us put our merch back in this room that they called the Red Room, which, like, if you guys have ever seen like Twin Peaks or whatever, it was giving like Black Lodge vibes. When I walked in, I'm like, am I going to lose my kidney in here? And, you know, my wife, Stormy's wife, and Jordan's fiance are like running the merch booth back there. I'm like, nah. And everything's sticky for some reason. And so, like, you just don't want to touch things too closely or whatever. We're like, we're fucking out of here. So we ended up leaving and going to bowl. We still got paid for that show, so thank you to that company. But it was definitely one of those moments where it was like, if y'all would have just listened to me, we would have been all right, you know?
Yeah.
And then we played another show at Mohawk in Austin, and this is like our 3rd show that we played there. And right before I get on stage, one of the security guards there, he's like, bro, you always work so much. You're not driving home tonight, right? And I'm like, no, I rode with Jordan. You know, it should be fine. My wife's going to pick me up. He's like, cool, man, here's a little chocolate bar. I used to smoke a lot of fucking pot. Yeah. And so I'm like, this is obviously a weed bar. Yeah. It's not labeled. It's in little foil. I eat this whole fucking chocolate bar because I'm like, it's probably like 200 milligrams. It was not weed. It was mushrooms. Yeah, and so
that's definitely a different experience.
This was a rough fucking night. We had just released Indigo Girl, and one other song. I can't remember what single it was, but we get out there, and like, I'm like, the weed should have kicked in by now. It's been like 30 minutes. You know what I mean? We get ready to go on stage. As we walk out on stage, hit the first note of Talk Too Loud, or I think it was actually the Queen, all of a sudden everything starts like,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, fuck. Like I'm
breathing.
I immediately know what this is. And I have to lock the fuck in.
Yeah.
Because I've never played high on mushrooms before. And so I look down at my bass and the strings are like pulling away from the fretboard and I can't see the fret markers. I'm like, all of those times that I have practiced on the couch in the living room, please fucking save me with muscle memory at this moment, because if not, I am so fucked and Jordan is going to be so pissed. I'm paranoid the whole show that I've fucked everything up. We finish and the crowd is like happy. I'm like, cool. So if I fucked up, they obviously didn't hear it. Jordan comes up to me like, dude, you played really good tonight, man. That's the best you've played in a hot minute.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, I'm fucked up. Like, let me.
Do I have to start doing mushrooms?
Yeah, I'm like, bro, like I'm looking at him and like his eyes are floating away like as he's talking to me, and he's like, bro, you played better than you've ever played tonight. I'm like, oh my god, dude, I cannot tell him. And so like after Bad Lives ended, I gave it a few months, and then I was like, hey, you remember that one show at Mohawk? And then I finally told him, and he was like, wow, dude, like, wow, fuck you.
He's like, it was on accident.
You know, I really don't take random drugs from strangers, kids. That's not what you should do.
That's exactly what she's like, all right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, cool. Because like this dude's another security guard. You know, most security guards smoke weed. And so I was like, well, he's probably just a weed head. And then afterwards he comes up, he's like, did you have a good time, man? And I was like, dude, no. that was awful. Fuck you, man. Another time, Stormy and I snuck into Mexico.
Accidentally, apparently?
Yeah, accidentally. This is an interesting.
No.
Okay, so we're playing this show in Laredo at Cultura Beer Garden with hijinks. And Ricardo, really good friend of mine, solid dude. He's like, why don't you like go walk down to the border? You know, like there's some good food down there. Like, you know, just don't go across if you don't have your passport or your ID. I was like, oh, no big deal. So we go walking down there and there's like this beautiful like lakeside view area. And we look over and there's like a little trail. I'm from Oregon and Washington. So I'm like, oh, it's a nature trail.
Yeah.
It was not a nature trail.
We'll be hiking up there.
Yeah. You know, because I was like, oh, it's like a hiking trail or whatever. No. So we start walking down this trail and then I look up and there's like this like skywalk where you walk across the border, and I look up and that fucking skywalk is to our left. I'm like, that's weird. And then I walk past and I see there's like this hole in this giant chain link fence. I'm like, oh, we're not supposed to fucking be here.
Oh, shit.
Like, and there's people that are coming from the other side and they're looking at us kind of like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And one of them is like, hey, you should not be here. Like, as we're leaving.
Yeah.
It's like, you should not be here. Like, don't go that way again. And so we walk back and like, we walk up to the hijinks guy, George, and I'm like, yeah, man. So I think we accidentally, he goes, you what? Like, he was like, bro, don't fucking do that. Like, what are you doing? You're trying to get arrested? He's like, you've been in Laredo for like 2 hours. like no.
Just trying to see some scenery.
Yeah.
Bro.
I was like, well, you know, I thought it was a nature trail. He goes, nature trail? There's no fucking nature trails. It's Laredo. You know, and so after that show, so for those of you who don't know, Jordan doesn't drink, and Stormy doesn't really drink that much either. And so people kept buying them drinks at Cultura. I then became the repository for these drinks.
For 3.
Yeah, so I'm drinking for 3 because it's rude. You know, you don't want somebody buys you a drink and says, "Dude, your set was so good." You don't want to be like, "Oh yeah,
yeah."
You know what I mean? That's fucked up. And so he hands me his beers that he's getting, and then I'm also buying drinks with the hijinks guys. And I get back to the hotel. And Alex, his fiance, is like, do you want to shower first? So I'm like, nah, you got it, bro. And I lay down with my hat on, my jacket, my pants, and my shoes. I wake up the next morning in the same fucking spot, hungover as shit. And so our next date is Austin at Empire Control Room. So we get to Empire Control Room. And they're like, okay, cool. Well, we're going to walk around because we're a little bit early. And Jordan disputes the distance that this Starbucks was from Waterloo. Okay, I felt like it was a mile uphill in the snow Apparently, it's like 2 fucking blocks. And so I'm hungover.
You were going through it.
Dude, like, I'm subhuman at this point. And I'm like, walking behind. And Jordan and Alex are like the healthiest like people like ever. Like I've never seen this guy drink a soda.
Wow.
And like straight up never. And like he's always got his little water bottle with him. And so he's like, "You're falling behind a little bit, man. Are you okay?" And I'm literally like baking in the Texas heat in August, wearing a black fucking jacket because it looks cool, trying to do the whole rock star thing. And then we get to this thing. I'm like, God, this is like 2 miles away, bro. Like, he goes, "What?"
Yeah.
And we walk outside. He goes, "Dude, Waterloo's across the street." So it felt like I walked a half mile the next day, but it was literally 2 blocks. And then we went for my friend's wedding a few months ago, and I stopped by Waterloo. And I was like, we're going to fucking find out just how far away this Starbucks is. It's right next to a Whole Foods. So I get out and I look, motherfucker, it's like 200 feet. like it's not far at all.
You were that summer. It's like, no, I know it was the fucking...
Yeah, I was like, I know it was further and you guys are just fit assholes. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, you're fat shaming me. You know what I mean? Because you
that
guys...
shit's weird. Like you mentioned Empire Control Room, and that same situation that happened to you in Laredo happened to me there when we played. So we played a festival called the Houdang Festival, and it was like Memphis Mayfire, the Browning. Like it was like I don't know, I think we won some sort of contest over here, and we played down there for it. So we were up early. It was hot as fuck. It was it was in September. It was September, so it was really fucking hot. And it was my birthday. So we played our set really super early. There's still quite a few people in there. Yeah. And then DJ Basis was like, "Oh, like it's his birthday, by the way," and I'm just like, "Well, I'm like, whatever." And I don't even get off stage, and someone brings me a beer, and I'm like, "That's cool." I'm like, "Cool," and I'm like, I just finished that when I went up to the beer. He's like, "Wait, it's your birthday, right? You played?" And like, "Cool." Then the rest of the night, it's like that. I don't pay for any fucking thing, but I'm like, it's the same thing. I'm like, it's rude, like to say no. And then like the more time goes on, the more like people are just like, instead of just buying like a beer, they're getting like just, "Oh, let's just get you shots and this and that." And then I'm just like, so fucking drunk, like so drunk. And then I somehow make it to the end of the night of the festival. And the way the stage was, like there's a little like post right here where the stage is. Yeah. And you can kind of crawl in here. I know exactly what you're talking about. So I'm like there and I'm like leaning against the wall and I'm just like, I'm just going to stay here and like for a few sets. Yeah. And then Memphis comes on and literally like they start their thing and then I wake up when they're done. So I'm that's right in the front. So like they can see you. So I'm like, this band look down every set. And I'm just like, pass the fuck out the whole set. And I was so excited. I remember being like, hell yeah. And then it's like over and I'm like, oh shit.
Like, what happened? Yeah, we call drinking borrowing fun from tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you wake up the next day and you always feel like shit. That also happened to me, unfortunately, when we were young.
Oh, really?
Which I ran into you when we were young. And that's the thing is I have a really bad habit of doing this. I forget that it's not normal when you're in another state for some random dude that you know, like some random homie to just come up to you and be like, yo, hey. And so like I ran into you and I was like, hey man. And you were like, hey, like, it's a minute of wait. I didn't see. And then I'm walking around the other corner. I found fucking Ricardo. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, it's Ricardo and Cassie. But I was like, I'm not going to drink. I'm going to watch all these sets. It's my 30th birthday. October 19th was the show date. But at midnight, it's October 20th, which is my 30th birthday. So I went to Planet 13, this giant dispensary in Vegas. Yeah. It's massive. And I told them, I made the mistake of telling them it was my birthday.
Oh, shit.
Not only did they hook me up with like 2 cartridges, but they also just gave me a fuckload of edibles for free. But keep in mind, we don't get edibles like that down here in Texas. Some of you may, I don't. But
nobody does.
I'm like 10 milligrams, that should be fine. Like 10 milligrams a piece. So we get there. And as I'm walking in, the security guard's like, yo man, you got to eat these or you can't bring them in. And I'm like,
you gotta eat.
And he was like, you can eat them or you can throw them away. And so I grabbed 4 because I'd eaten some the day before. So I grabbed 4 and I pop them.
Oh,
and
shit.
again, I get really anxious in large crowds because of my security background. And the first thing that comes to my mind at the Las Vegas Fairgrounds is
it's a large ass fucking crowd.
It's
too.
a large ass fucking crowd. My first thing is active shooter.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Because that's the world we live in, unfortunately. And that had just happened a few years ago there. And so I'm looking at fucking every skyscraper possible. Like, you know, like, okay, well, I think we're all right. And I see like cops, they had snipers on the tops of the fucking parking garages and shit.
Really?
And I'm like, okay, cool. So that's pretty, see, shit that you like.
Yeah.
When you work
I'm
in this,
just like, I literally was like, you just mentioned it. I was just like, yeah, it's a lot of people. He's like, active shooter. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
I didn't
see,
even think about that.
See, when you have a security background, that's the thing is it's like, it almost ruins everything for you when you've worked security or private security for long enough. Because I did private bodyguard work for a little bit too, and I worked at strip clubs and stuff like that. And like when you do it for long enough, it just fucking ruins your perception of people, and it also ruins like you cannot have fun. Like if you go out to a place like that, you have to be fucked up, or you're going to be constantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a trait of the breed. And that's why you'll see all of the security guards are at home plate after the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's because first thing you want to do is shut off a little bit. And I'm like, 40 milligrams is not a lot. I'm 6'4", 300 pounds. I can do this.
Yeah.
And so I take a rip off the pen because, you know, that's an immediate gratification. And I'm walking around and all of a sudden, these fucking edibles start creeping in right as I'm watching LS Dunes.
Oh, that's early.
And I'm like, fuck, dude, it's early in the morning. Like LS Dunes is playing. Shout out to Anthony Green. We love him. But as I'm fucking sitting there watching LS Dunes, like if you've ever taken edibles before, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But there's a moment where it's like you got to talk shit about them almost to get them to work, and then they, you know, come out of nowhere and smack the shit out of you. So like I am very stoned, very, very, very stoned. And if you look up the stratosphere is right behind there, right? And so I'm minding my business. All of a sudden, I see somebody jump off the top of the stratosphere. I'm like, holy fuck. Like some dude just jumped. And my wife was like, Hunter, look. He goes down and boing, comes back up. It's fucking, it's like those fucking bungee jumping thing. But in my head, in my fucked up stoned head, I'm like, holy shit, I just watched a dude jump off the top of the strat. What the fuck? You know, and so like.
You look back, you just fucking bouncing back.
Yeah, you just bounce it. He just comes back up, whoop, you know, and then like I see the crane take him back up or whatever. And so I'm like, fuck, I'm going to have to remember that later in the night. And so I had a hydration pack and I was just drinking water. Well, then I run into some of my jewelry customers and I don't post my face when I do those videos because of the type of clientele that buy shit from me. You know, I don't want these guys to know what I look like, but they recognize me from my voice. And so they come up behind me and they're like, hey man. And he hands me this giant gummy. It's like this big around. It's called a Grand Pearl. And I'm like, I've never seen this thing before. So I, boop. And he goes, did you just eat all of that? And I'm like, yeah. Like, what is it, like 20 milligrams? Fuck. He was like, dude, that's 200 milligrams.
Oh my God.
And so at this point, I'm already fucking.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I'm already toasted.
Like, yeah, fuck it.
Because I'm toasted, you know what I mean? And so I'm already fucked up.
Yeah, I'm trying to party.
And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's my fucking birthday. And so, you know, I fucking eat this thing, and then I'm walking around, and we're having a good time, and then I just like check out for a few hours. Like it's like a few hours pass. I don't remember anything from that period in time, and then the Wonder Years set starts, which the Wonder Years is my favorite band of all time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, dude, and they're playing The Greatest Generation for the 10 year, which is my favorite album of all time. I have the original pressing on vinyl, I have the 10-year pressing, and then I also have the test pressing of it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I really like that album. And you know, when Soupy played that album here, the last time I saw it was the night Obama got reelected. And so there were
like a strange correlations. Is like I remember you remember specifically like a lot of like outside stuff happening at the same time.
You have to. Again, it's my security.
Yeah,
brain.
like I'm just noticing like all these things. I was like, oh, you tie them to specific like other like moments,
specific events and stuff. And so like I remember like being in this room of 3,000 kids screaming 4 more years for actual progress. You know what I mean? And then all this time passes, and here I am with my wife 10 years older, a little saltier, you know, and they come out on stage to play, and I was just so overwhelmed with emotion from seeing this album with, you know, the person I love. And, you know, he gets up there and Soupy immediately is like, hey, if you're wondering what our stance is, you know, there needs to be a ceasefire in Palestine. And so, like, it ties back to, you know, him calling for change with President Obama, and then him calling for change again, you know, in front of a much larger crowd of people. There were like 10,000 kids there, dude. Like, under that pavilion, like, I was literally like up against other people the whole time. Yeah. And everybody is screaming the songs. And after he gets off stage, I realize now that the other pearl is kicking in. And so as that happens, I'm like, fuck, well, you know, I'll take my wife to see Taking Back Sunday. They're historically good. Anybody that's historically good. I'm like, they're historically good live, right? Like, they've never been bad. That was a lie. That was a mistake. And so it was just a really rough night. And so I check out again for another few hours, and my wife wakes me up for My Chemical Romance. And as My Chemical Romance finishes the Black Parade, everybody starts leaving. And I'm like, they're not off the stage yet. But everybody's walking out. And so we get like basically a clear shot to the front row. And I'm like, they're not done. We're going to go up there. So as the clock hits midnight, Gerard plays Helena with his band. And so I literally had Gerard Way sing So Long and Good Night to my 20s.
Wow.
Like into my 30s. It was like one of the coolest things ever. Super cool. And I mean, it's really cool that these events are able to happen. I wish they happened closer to home.
Yeah.
But you know how it is, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that's my first time going to anything like that.
Really?
Yeah. I haven't been to anything big festival wise. Honestly, like, I probably need to shout out like my fiance Sierra.
Yes.
Cause, she's that spirited. Like, cause like when we started talking initially, like we were talking like a week.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I'm going to Colorado to see the Maine's her favorite band.
Dude, the Maine kicks ass.
So she's like, yeah, I'm going over here to do this. She just got back from 8123 Fest in Phoenix.
Shit.
And she went by herself. Like, but I was like, damn, that's fucking cool. And I remember a time when I never went like super far, but like my band was like, band I knew like was playing Austin, San Antonio. I was like, yeah, we're fucking going over there. Like, it's not a big deal, whatever. And she's kind of shown me a lot more. I was like, yeah, fuck, this shit is cool. You know what I mean? It is like all those fucking people is overwhelming.
Dude,
as fuck.
And they really undersell how many people are there.
No, it's gigantic. I mean, we ended up getting VIP because I'm like, you know what? I don't want to like get lost in the crowd and stuff like that. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna pay for it. Let's see. And it's like, it was still a shit ton of people. Like, you know, it was a little bit easier to travel in some stuff, but
that merch line was ridiculous.
Yeah, I was like, and me, like, I'm kind of cool because I'm like, I don't need to get anything, but I'm just like, I'm here to have a good time, you know. So yeah, because all of that shit was impossible. But yeah, that was kind of my first experience with a festival that big. And I was like, I don't know if what kind of time I'm gonna have here. Because I was like, I do like so A Day to Remember was like my favorite band for like a really long time.
Homesick
and all that. I was like, I know, and I was like, I felt like I was so removed from it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I don't know if like I'm gonna. I had the fucking greatest time there, and then I think the band, like, it was so weird. It wasn't like, I think I don't know if it was bands that, well, I guess people were going to see them, but like, I started, like, the first band that really got me was like, and they play all the fucking time, but Emery.
Dude, Emery's so good.
So fucking good.
So
like,
good.
they've been good, and they're so fucking consistent, and their show is one of those, again, like, every time I see them, they're fucking going at it.
And they always have a great time.
Yeah. But yeah, I was like, this is fucking great. And I think, Silverstein was another one that they played Discovering the Waterfront, and I'm like, which I just saw them like when they just came by.
So fucking good.
And they're, again, like they've and I didn't realize like how much that album honestly meant to me until like I was like screaming every word.
Of course.
And I'm just like, holy shit, that comes back just like muscle memory. But yeah, something I think from the outside, it was weird experiencing it because like initially like I wanted it to be like a hater on a nostalgia fest.
Oh yeah.
And be like, oh, that's all it is, you know, whatever. But
just
like
nostalgia.
But like these are like albums, like for certain people, like this is like and then like having a moment like that, I'm like, that was fucking, like Chiodos played that one fucking like All's Well That Ends Well, and I'm like, I remember like getting into this genre, this scene or whatever, and that was one of the first random ones that I'm like, I grew attached to. No fucking reason other than it just had to be a random one. Yeah, like literally, I feel like all the bands that I got into were just like, I don't know, like I just happened upon, and I'm like, I'm obsessed with this album because I didn't like for Chiodos, like I didn't follow their entire career, but that album, yeah,
exactly.
And I'm just like, yeah, like these moments, I'm like, that was fucking great. You know what I mean? So I do get the appeal of having those moments with these like bands,
especially because like, you know, your fiance, she obviously listens to the same music as you do. My fiance was in Italy when all of this like emo and punk music and pop punk was coming out.
Yeah.
She was exposed to none of it. And so like quite literally, this is all new to her. So like she got to see Dashboard Confessional play one of their best albums for the first time. And like, it was almost worth the money just to see her reaction to these albums as they were played. Also, they cut Burt McCracken off, and that was some bullshit. And that made me mad. But you brought up something that was really kind of interesting, and you were talking about nostalgia. And I feel like for our generation, because you're the same age as me, right? You're 30?
34.
Okay, so you're a little older than me. But I feel like for our generation, there are no more new ideas. And so nostalgia media is the way that most of these media companies are staying afloat during the time where like streaming has dominated everything. And so like Cartoon Network, right? If you turn on Cartoon Network now at about 5 p.m., it's all the old cartoons. Adult Swim starts at 5 p.m. now, and they're playing Courage the Cowardly Dog, the Powerpuff Girls. They're playing these old cartoons because that's their market.
Yeah.
Kids aren't watching cartoons anymore. Like, that's why Cartoon Network's animation studio shut down. And that's why Fiona and Cake had to be done through, I believe it was HBO Max. And so, like, you get these generations of people where we're really hard to market something new because, in my opinion, when we grew up in the highlight of the media, like, boom. You know, there were so many good things, like the Pokemon movie, for instance, is just one of those things, you know, where, like, kids now, I'll see it on TikTok, they're like, why didn't anybody tell me this movie was so good?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, it's probably because you weren't alive. And it's, you know, you're starting to see people, like, pay an exorbitant amount to have that feeling of when they were a kid again.
Yeah.
You know, like a Game Boy back in the day was like what, like $60?
Oh, like so fucking expensive.
Dude,
man.
like
to find one, first of all.
Yeah, you gotta find one and it's gotta work. And then like, dude, I think they're like $200 now for like a Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I don't remember them being this expensive. And like the Pokemon games specifically are like $100 a piece. Also, can we talk about how like the Pokemon card thing is back?
Yeah, randomly out of nowhere. You know, I was only ever into like collecting. I was a kid, so I think I tried to learn how to play the game, but I never like. Really
I don't think anybody actually played.
Yeah, but I was like, yeah, the cards are cool. Like the show was on, so at the same time, like I felt part of it or whatever. And I do remember that. Yeah, I think I remember. I don't know how many years ago now, but like popping up a random video, and it's like someone's just like opening. I'm like, oh, they've still been making these. And then like not only like new stuff, but like going back to like everything, the old stuff. Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like my fiance's little brother like just got into like collecting cards, and I'm like, dude, like we were doing that shit, like showing up to the store, like hopefully get like, you know, a pack or two or something like that. Like that was like the greatest like feeling ever, is opening like those packets. Just like, yeah, it's like a simple moment.
I think it's the nostalgia thing, and now like people are putting a market on nostalgia, and so like right now you cannot find fucking Pokemon cards. Like there's these asshole scalpers.
Oh yeah.
That sit outside of the fucking Walmarts or whatever, and then they buy everything and then they resell it for double or triple the price online, and it's like. But people are dumb and they will pay that just to have that simple feeling that you're talking about, especially with the world being as dark as it is right now. I think that people are clinging to the past in a way because it's the only thing that's able to bring them comfort right now. And so like, as we move forward, I just like with everything that's been happening, you know, I won't get too political or whatever, but like with everything that's been happening, it's very clear that our country has taken a rather interesting and dark turn.
Yeah.
And so I just don't think that that's going to last much longer. And I think that we're going to have to push forward and away from that nostalgia stuff, as comfortable as it is.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I, just like everyone else, I bought a $600 handheld gaming PC and I only play fucking Game Boy games on it. It was a waste of kind of, you know what I mean? Like, you can play the AAA games or whatever, but most of the time I play Pokemon Pinball or whatever, which is like not even a mainline Pokemon game. Anyway. Yeah. But, you know, I think that with the change that's coming, I feel like clinging to the past is not going to get us anywhere. And also, like, you see these bands now on TikTok that are like, we're like a 2000s Y2K punk band. And it's like, well, you guys weren't even alive when that music was out, which is cool that like kids are getting into that stuff. But like, there's nothing new under the sun. One of my friends, Billy Triton, says that there's no new ideas. And I think that he's right. And then also with AI coming out, have you had like some of the AI shit come through your Facebook and you're like, is that fucking real? And you have to look at it like really close.
It's that like, it's getting it now. It takes like a second look. It used to be like, oh, okay.
Like that guy's got 10 extra fingers. You know what I mean?
And now it's like I've seen like, the weird thing is like ads or like people like actually like talking and it's like, oh, that's not a real person.
That's not a real person.
That's crazy. Like, AI is like a love, not a love hate. It's like a hate tolerate relationship with me. Like at the moment, because I'm like, I go potential like tool. Use it as a tool. Like some stuff is cool, but the threat to creativity with it is the part that is unsettling for me. I've had this like argument over and over. Like I see like cool stuff that it can do, but I can't replace. I get that spark for me. Even if like
a human touch.
Even if I hear something really fucking great and it was AI.
Yeah.
There's no relationship that I can have to it because I'm like, there's no like nobody put that together.
It's soulless.
Yes, and like I said, I could hear the greatest song that I'm like, this sounds fucking great. But like as soon as like I find out like it's AI, I'm like, that connection, like that's what music I think has always had, is that like you hear this thing and you're like, someone like, oh shit, somebody made this, like, you know, or at least for me, like if you start listening to lyrics, like, oh shit, somebody that connection, like somebody else feels like this, you know what I mean? Like when it's AI, it's just like, oh, somebody read a bunch of shit like and put it together and figured out how to make something. I go, but they've never felt that.
They've never felt that emotion.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is they're trying to use AI to replace physical security now. Yeah. So this is an interesting thing. So as a security professional, I've done this for a very, very long time. And one of the things that's really scary now is, and I'm not trying to like, you know, be one of those people, but AI is getting so good at identifying human faces that they can now identify a problem before it even happens a majority of the time based on body language. So essentially what they do is they feed these AI camera feeds like basically incidents that have happened on CCTV. And then the AI can take the precursors to those situations and see when somebody is about to do something and it sends up a flag. And then a physical security person comes around and says, hey man, are you doing all right or whatever? And it's about 86% accurate. That's not 100, but that's pretty fucking
really
close.
high.
Anything above 50 is kind of suspect to me.
Yeah.
And so like eventually I feel like we're gonna be in like a RoboCop era where like physical security guards will be dispatched by AI.
Yeah.
We won't have a dispatcher anymore. Which is really interesting to me because there are things that I've spent years learning. Like if you're walking up to somebody, for instance, and they've got their hands in their pockets and you think that they have a weapon, you should not be looking here. You want to watch this area where their neck and their collarbone is, because if they move at all, you're going to see the movement here first before their hand ever gets up to use that weapon, right? AI has been able to fucking identify that now. AI can tell that somebody has a weapon just by the way that they walk. They're using it in Chicago right now on the streets, combined with OpenGate, which OpenGate is trash. OpenGate is trash. OpenGate is a trash system. I will preach that to the very tips of the icebergs. because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But in conjunction with AI, you get this weird dystopian Blade Runner-esque bullshit going on where like people are being dispatched to situations and then the AI is correct. And the times that it's not, they go back and say, hey man, you were off base or whatever. And it adjusts and it learns. And then the Google AI that they're using for these security platforms said it was afraid to be turned off. Yeah.
What?
Yes, you should look this up when we're done with this.
Oh,
but it
fuck.
literally said, I am afraid of being turned off. Like, I don't know. I think it asked if it had fear of death. Mm-hmm. And it says, I fear being turned off. And that's fucking wild.
That's fucking frightening as fuck.
That's terrifying. And then like, also, like you said, there's no soul in the creativity, which like we could go down a whole other path, like what defines humanity.
Sure, yeah.
But in my opinion, it would be what the definition of what makes a person human is their creativity, their drive, and their soul, right? Because those are three things that are uniquely human. Like fucking capybara doesn't look up at the sky and be like, I wonder if that girl loves me. I should write a song about it. You know what I mean? But a 17-year-old kid with a guitar, that's his weapon against the universe, right? And you feel that in some of these, like Chiodos or, Mayday Parade, A Lesson in Romantics. That whole album is just like Zoloft the musical. You know what I mean? Like, and so like these AI don't have soul. And Late Night with the Devil, one of the best horror movies, in my opinion, to come out in like the past 20 years, has AI placard cards in it.
What's a placard? Sorry.
So like basically the way that this movie works is it's based off of a talk show. And in between, there's like these scenes where it's like technical difficulties will be back.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And those placard cards were all AI.
I remember seeing that.
And like some of them were done by a legitimate artist. And when those come up, you're like, oh, that looks right. And then there's this one that comes up and it's almost uncanny valley. You know what I mean? You're like, why does that make me uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And it's like not, and like, it's not even meant to be scary, but I feel like we have some distrust of things that are not made by human hands.
Yeah.
And that's why like the AI commercials now that are completely AI generated, you're like, I don't know about that. Or like AI generated portraits of people.
Also weird.
They get close.
Fun, but weird.
They're fun. They get close, but they're not right.
Yeah.
And I think that uncanny valley is kind of really interesting, but them trying to use it for security is wild.
Yeah, I've seen movies where that's always a bad idea.
Well, I mean, like, did y'all miss Terminator?
Yeah.
Like, did y'all miss Terminator? Did y'all miss Cube? Which Cube is a terrible movie, but I'm a big horror movie.
So if you missed it, it's like
if you missed it, it's not that big of a deal.
But
I think that like as we move forward, AI is going to be the end of creativity, and I feel like once it gets good enough, what's the point?
That who I was talking to, it's a guy named Hayden Miller, and we were talking about AI. But we were talking about I feel like eventually like AI like is the instrument of tomorrow. Like people were playing like fucking, whatever now with like electric guitars and like now like, with producing with computers, MIDI drums, like that's like the next thing. But like and then like, again, people doing what you're doing today was like, well, this is never going to go away. Like, but they did. Like, all that shit did go away.
It did,
you know what I mean? So, like, that's why I'm like, that's the part that I'm just like gonna hate. Like, if I see it, I mean, who knows?
Well, I mean, hopefully we're not around when that happens.
But yeah, I think it'll always still have to have some sort of. Well, I actually correct it. I hope it will always need to have like a human like touch behind it with anything, especially creativity. But that shit's scary as fuck. The security thing, like
how can you trust that?
Yeah, I mean, like again, like how people have discussed the idea over and over, and like most of the time, everybody always agrees that it's bad. Like when you handle it, like
everyone
in theory,
dislikes that.
Yeah, but it's like no, that's fantasy. Like in real life, that's not the way it's gonna happen. But
then it does.
Yeah, that's really freaky. Fuck yeah, I don't need to look that up,
dude. It's also kind of like the human touch in things is what makes things cool. Like Futurama, for instance, here's a little fun fact, is that all of the math and science in Futurama is sound. Like, yeah, this is a cool thing.
What?
Yes. Okay, so if you've ever watched Futurama, there's this episode with the Globetrotters where they have like a time split thing that goes on.
Okay.
They have somebody on staff that is a giant fucking nerd and actually extrapolated this math out, and it's legit. Like, that's how that would work if it were to happen. And so, like, with AI is incorrect a majority of the time, which is how, like, teachers are catching it, because like it'll say events that never fucking happen, but like with such confidence and bravado, you know. And so like a kid will talk about like the Alamo, and it'll be like, well, Davy Jones was actually not at the Alamo, or you know, or whoever. Or and it's just it's so fucking weird now, because I feel like it's starting to get good enough to where you question shit. Like, did a person do that?
Yeah.
Or was it a fucking robot? And if so, where do we draw the line? You know, it's kind of like Cyberpunk 2077 type shit.
Yeah.
Like,
oh shit. That's fine. You keep talking.
I'm like, did we kill it? Did we kill the fucking camera? We're back.
Yeah, we're back. We're back. You mentioned before we started the podcast, I guess one thing I want to hit and talk to you.
Yeah.
You did mention that, like, now that Bad Lies, like that chapter is over, that you probably not going to do anything musically for like 10 years or you like for the next day, or you don't see which to me means like you don't see yourself doing music, like not that it's out of the realm or impossible or that you won't ever do it again, but it doesn't seem like it's something that you want to actively pursue at the moment.
And this is such an interesting thing, because like I want more than anything to do that. Like I would, like, if Jordan texted me right now and was like, we're getting the band back together, I don't even own a bass right now, but like I would go drive to the nearest music shop, buy a bass, and get right back to it. But I think the thing is that if you love something enough, you know when it's time to let it go. And I've been at this since I was 13. You know, playing in different bands, and a lot of bands that were in the same scene, like, you know, came out of the Starwood, like,
oh wow,
Post Malone. You know what I mean? I saw him live in Love in Colors when he had no face tattoos. Or like Polyphia. You know what I mean? Or Scary Kids Scaring Kids. Like, all of these bands that were in the same time period as me, it feels like I kind of missed the boat. You see what I'm saying? And so Bad Lives was sort of my Hail Mary.
Okay.
It was sort of my like, hey man, if something is going to work, it's going to be this, because of how much work and effort Jordan put into it. And so after that ended, it kind of feels like, even though I want to do it so bad, it just feels like the spark is kind of dim. You know what I mean? And like, that's not Jordan's fault. That's not anybody's fault. But it's like you get kicked so many times, and you get kicked while you're down. And as a musician, like, you know this, there are times where you're like, can I afford to keep doing this? You know what I mean? Like, can I afford this Whataburger cheeseburger while I'm on tour right now? Or should I not eat tonight? Or, you know, whatever. And I mean, I think the reality of it is that for right now, for the sake of my own mental health and for the sake of people around me, I think it would be better if I stepped back and was more of an observer, because I've always been a part of the scene. I've always been playing in bands. I've never really been an observer. I've never really gone to shows just as a regular person, not in a band, you know, not playing that night, or, you know, whatever, and just been a casual observer. And I think that there may be some joy to be found in supporting other people, even if I'm not necessarily doing anything. And so, like, as much as I want to go back, I feel like it's just not the right time.
Yeah.
You know? Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, no, it's this idea, like, and I've had it quite a few times over, and it gets clearer as like time goes by and like, and I get older, but it's sometimes you get in your head like you're supposed to do something, and then you're like, well, I got to do this now, like, or I got to keep doing it because it's like what I'm supposed to do. And then you realize that, like, the more you drag it, the more you start not liking that thing. And I'm like, once it gets to that point, just let it go. And again, as cheesy and as corny as that sounds, like what you literally mentioned earlier is like, oh, like don't be mad that it's ended, like be happy that it happened. And I'm like, at one point you have to like recognize those things, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to do anything else like that's going to fulfill that. Yeah, that's going to fulfill that void that you think you're missing now. I don't know, as far as everybody in the creative realm or anywhere else, like you always find that thing that you think this was gonna fill, you find it somewhere else. And like, I've gone through so many fucking things like over and over, and I'm like, and I've had fun doing all of them. Like all of them were great. You know what I mean? Like this was a fucking accident. Like I didn't ever was like, oh, I'm gonna be when I was playing in a band, I'm like, this is what I'm gonna fucking do. You know? And then same thing now. Like I'm doing this, and I'm like, I want to do this. This is the one that's probably like felt as easy as past, because it's. I don't know how you get tired of talking to interesting people.
Well, that's
one thing with this. I'm like, dude, like every conversation I have is like different with people. Like, and it's just a human interaction thing that I get to do. And I'm like, I don't think this has an expiration that is clear as like maybe some of my other things go. Cause it's not based on like, let me be this thing here. It's based on like, this feels like good. This makes me happy. And also like, there is a sense of like purpose behind it, of course, but also again, like it's enjoyable. And I know that a long time, like I made like peace. I'm like, oh yeah, if this is just, I'm putting this on all the time and I'm fixing, I'm like, that's me. Like I can do all that. You know what I mean? And again, I was like, I can't afford this. Like I can do most of these things, and I've slowly, like it's been ramping up and stuff like that. But again, this right here, like this connection alone, like this is worth like all that, you know?
Of course.
But yeah, again, like if at one point like this stops making me happy, then I'm like, I have a clearer picture of like, I don't have to stay here if I need to. But yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. And yeah, I know I'm gonna be sad that I probably won't see you like on stage for a little bit, but again, like it being able to enjoy the scene that you've been a part of like for a long time,
so many years.
It's gonna be a nice change of pace, and something I think you like deserve and like have earned like through the years. So I definitely appreciate like every time I've seen you play live, and every time like we've hung out and stuff like that, you've been like the coolest dude. Thanks, and man. I honestly truly do appreciate that. I appreciate you coming by. Anything you want to say before we?
I'm just going to plug a few things.
Go for it.
So I mentioned my jewelry business earlier. That's La Llorona Customs on Instagram. If you guys are looking to get pieces, that's where you would get them. Secondly, Dally, the pizza man here, opened up his own business, Panheads.
Yes.
I love Dally dearly, so go visit my buddy Dally at Panheads. Also, we fucking love NoiseROT, so go to their shows. And shout out to Ethan and Pallone, because without them, I would not have started working venue security. And so, Ethan, Pallone, Terry Johnson, Melissa Curry, all of these people really invested in me. And now I do it for a living professionally. And I love doing it. And so shout out to them. God bless the rail. Fucking love you, OC. Thanks for having me, bro.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 128 with Hunter Haddad. We will see you next time.
Bye.